It is officially President Trump's last full day in office. Tomorrow morning, he'll be leaving the White House and return to being a private citizen. As one of the most controversial presidents in modern history, the big question, of course, is what he's going to do next. So joining us now to talk about the many paths ahead for the soon-to-be ex-president is Tina Davis, executive editor for Bloomberg's legal news coverage. So Tina, let's dig right in because Trump has been anything but a conventional president, and he's not going to tomorrow's inauguration, but he did release a farewell address today. What's the gist of it? Is it conventional?
Well, he put out a 20-minute video on YouTube, so if you consider that conventional, then yeah, sure, we'll count that as his convention. Look, this is a president that has never conceded this election. The speech that he gives, as I said, is a scripted speech, a scripted video. So it's a chance for him to kind of give his goodbye address, if you will, to the nation. What he does in the course of that, he does talk about there being the inauguration of a new administration, so there is some acknowledgement there that Joe Biden won the election and is going to be inaugurated tomorrow. But the bulk of the message is celebrating the successes of his administration. He briefly mentions COVID and the lives lost to that disease. But again, he does it in the terms of describing how quickly his administration was able to get a vaccine out to folks. So again, it's not a normal concession speech, but this is a president who's never adhered to any of the norms of his office, and he continues to do that on the way out.
All right, so it sounds like a victory lap here for President Trump. Of course, when we look back at what's been happening over the last month, the January 6th siege at the Capitol was a real turning point. Trump has now been impeached for a second time. He's been banned from major social media companies and their platforms. He's been cut off from corporate partnerships as well. But you have more than 70 million people who voted for him. How influential will he be on and within the Republican Party?
Well, you mentioned the Capitol riot, and that I think is a major game changer. I mean, I think before January 6th, it really looked like Trump would remain a major force in the Republican Party and in national politics going forward, both through his fundraising and by sort of being a kingmaker to GOP candidates that would need to abide by, his policies to kind of draw his following and his, live off the amazing loyalty that he's found amongst the people who support him. There was a Pew poll that recently came out that talked about 68% of Americans don't want Trump now to be a major political figure going forward, and that's in the aftermath of what happened at the Capitol on January 6th. So that could have really resulted in a sea change. What we still don't know yet is how long those effects will last. So, if you think about in the immediate aftermath of the election on November 3rd, the Trump campaign was able to raise another $200 million to help fund what they were calling their legal fight against the election results. So there is a huge well of pent-up sort of emotion amongst his followers that if he can figure out how to tap into that, even without the megaphones that he's had within reach in terms of social media, there is still a substantial amount of desire to follow him, desire to listen to him. And I think, as I said, before January 6th, it sort of seemed like he had a place going forward in national politics regardless, but whether or not that is able to come through the other side of those events, we'll have to see.
What about the Trump brand in the business world? What are his post-presidential options when it comes to his various businesses?
Well, he's got a lot of options ahead of him. I mean, he obviously has the real estate company that sort of made him a famous figure. According to Bloomberg data, he was worth about $3 billion when he came into the office of the presidency. He's worth about $500 million less as he leaves. It's obviously not a great time to be in real estate, either commercial or residential in New York City. It's not a great time to be in the tourism business, so owning hotels and golf courses, is maybe not exactly the portfolio you'd want to have right at the moment, but he does have valuable assets, and he also has, he has the benefit of lenders who are not necessarily looking to foreclose on properties that are going to be unable to make a lot of money in the very near term. But he has other options as well. I mean, he's talked about potentially forming a network that would compete with Fox News, which he has constantly criticized for not being conservative enough. We've heard him potentially talk about forming some sort of new social media venture. So after he was banned from Twitter and blocked from Facebook, could he come up with something that competes with either of those? in terms of having followers. I mean, again, he had 88 million people following him on Twitter.
Yeah.
If there's a way to figure out how you monetize those followers, that will be a very nice financial situation to be in.
Absolutely. Now, going back to what you cover, which is legal news, we know the president, of course, has been impeached for a second time. It's not clear whether the Senate will convict him or not, but he does face legal liability as well from civil lawsuits. Talk to us a little bit about how that's going to look in the days ahead.
Yeah, so there are civil lawsuits, and there are the potential for criminal charges. So he's already facing at least 2 defamation suits by women who claim that he sexually assaulted them, and he denied doing so. In one of the cases, which involves a former columnist named E. Jean Carroll, she's actually going to have a chance to probably get him deposed this year. So that will be something that, he did not face even in the course of the Mueller probe. The questions he took were not sort of sitting face to face with a lawyer asking him questions and being able to follow up with any of those things. And then on the criminal side, you have a number of investigations. You have the Manhattan District Attorney looking into potential fraud. You have the Attorney General of New York looking into some of the taxes that the tax records that he has there. Those could be real issues going forward if they decide that there's enough to bring a criminal case against him.
Tina Davis, really appreciate your laying it all out for us. Tina Davis, executive editor for Bloomberg News.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.